I got an Erev Shabbos. This week's Parshas Toldos. Parshas Toldos deals with the birth of Yaakov and Esav, who fought from in the womb, and until, unfortunately, until today, they fought or fight. So the question is, of course, in this week's Parsha, we also see that Yitzchak, the father of Yaakov and Esav, Yitzchak had this special bond for Esav as opposed to Yaakov, which is very strange, a very interesting relationship that Yitzchak would. The pasuk tells us straight out. It's not even a medrash. It's straight in the pasuk. It says Yitzchak loved Esav kitzayir b'fiv, Rivka ahaves es Yaakov, as opposed to Rivka, who loved Yaakov. So there's a clear bond here between Yitzchak and Esav. And the question is, why this bond? Of course, it's famous. Esav had all the kibburav and he did all that, but we don't believe that Yitzchak would be fooled into anything by Esav. We don't believe that he would be tricked into anything. Yitzchak knew what Esav was. Yitzchak knew Esav had a temper, and he was a man of the field, and all of his midos that he had. Yitzchak knew all of this. So what is this connection that he had with Esav? We also know that Yitzchak, besides for knowing these things about Esav, all his characteristics, we know that he also did not believe that Esav would be the one to carry on the Bris Bein Habsarim that was given to Avram Avinu. We know that Yitzchak did not intend for Esav to continue the tradition. Yitzchak knew that Yaakov Avinu was going to be the one. He knew that Yaakov, his son, would be the one to continue on from this Bris Bein Habsarim. So what is this special bond that he had with Esav, and what can we learn from this special bond? That's the question. How do we know that Yitzchak saw that Esav would not carry on the tradition of the Avos? Because we could see from the bracha that he intended to give to Esav, Yitin Lecha, is a bracha of wealth and power. It's not a bracha normally associated with the Avos, like we mentioned last week, that the bracha that Hashem gave Avram was about children and about the land of Eretz Yisrael. And in fact, Yitzchak gives Yaakov that very bracha. When Yaakov leaves, Yitzchak gives him the bracha of children and the land of Eretz Yisrael. So we know here clearly that Yitzchak knows what's going on. He knows Yaakov is going to be the one to carry on the tradition of Klal Yisrael, and Esav is not going to be. He gives him a very un-Avos-like bracha of power and wealth, or that's what he intended to give Esav. So what is going on here? So Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs points out a beautiful thing, fascinating, and he says the answer lies within the in-betweens of the psukim, the silences of the psukim. And he says there are three silences. There are three times that Yitzchak should have been somewhere and he wasn't. Number one, probably most famously, is after the Akedah. There have been books written about it. There are many Perushim written on it. What happened to Yitzchak after the Akedah? When the Akedah is over, Avram goes and he greets Eliezer on top of the mountain, but Yitzchak is not with him. That's number one. That's the first omission. Where is Yitzchak? Number two, after Sarah died, it says, Vayavai Avraham lispad l'Sarah v'lev kaisa. Avram was crying over Sarah. Where was Yitzchak? Yitzchak's the child. He should have been leading the mourning. Sarah's only child. Where was Yitzchak? It's only later, after he gets married, that he says that he's comforted on the loss of his mother, but when it happened, he's nowhere to be found. That's number two. And number three is when Avram tells Eliezer to go find a wife for Yitzchak, Yitzchak is nowhere to be found again. The pasuk does not tell us anything about him asking, what type of girl do you want to marry, or anything like that. It's only later, after the fact, when Eliezer brings Rivka back, then we see that he's talking to Yitzchak. So where is Yitzchak in all of this? What happened to him? So Rabbi Sachs points out that the pasuk itself tells us the answer. The pasuk itself says that Yitzchak came from Be'er Lachai Ra'i. Be'er Lachai Ra'i was a place that's mentioned one previous time, and that is when Hagar was sent away. Hagar and Yishmael was sent away by Avram. She went to Be'er Lachai Ra'i, and that is where Yitzchak was. And the Medrash tells us that when Yitzchak heard that Avraham was going to send for Yitzchak to have a wife, he said to himself, I can't leave my father like this. My father's going to be alone. I'm going to get married. My father's going to be alone. So he went to Be'er Lachai Ra'i to get Hagar, and he gets Hagar so that Avraham shouldn't be lonely anymore. And he reunites them. And we see this even more when Avraham dies. Yitzchak and Yishmael are together at the funeral. So Yitzchak had this kind of passion to try to bring the family back together as best as he can. And if we keep all of that in mind, we can really understand the answer of what's going on here. Yitzchak was trying to make sure that what happened to him and what happened to Avram doesn't happen again in his children. He was saying, I know Esav. I know all about it. I know all his bad qualities. But I don't care. He's my kid. He's my son. I'm not going to sacrifice him on an altar. I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to send him away either. I'm not sending anyone out of my house. I'm not sacrificing anything. He's my kid. He's my son, and I love him. And that is what Yitzchak is telling Esav. And that is such an amazing, amazing lesson that we all have to learn. Always, we know your children are your children. You think that Yitzchak approved of everything that Esav did? He didn't. But he was still his kid. And he stuck with his kid, no matter what. And that is the lesson. Just like Hashem, he looks at all his children. You think that Hashem is happy with every single thing that we do? I don't think so. But he loves each and every one of us. And that is something very, very important to keep in mind. Hashem loves each and every single one of us. Have a wonderful Shabbos.